This is Coffee with Grant. I'm Grant. This is Ruby Dog. Say hello, Ruby. Hey, hope you're having a good day. Um, yeah, I got my coffee here in a mug that I painted when I was 8, I think. You gotta hang on to those family heirlooms. Clearly, this is some high quality craftsmanship. Hey, it still holds coffee. That's what it's meant to do. But I think it's a good segue into what I wanted to talk about today, which was memories. I find the subject of memory really, really interesting. I ran into, started doing research on memory when I was in undergrad. One of my degrees is in vocal performance, and having a performance degree, especially voice, means that there is a lot of memorization involved, especially if you're doing things like opera performance. They don't exactly let you like run around the stage with a music stand. You got to have everything memorized, and so and in multiple languages, often languages that you are not fluent in, that you don't speak. And so that memory and these tricks on how to memorize things and get them into your brain become uh, mission critical to your success. And so I started doing research into memory and what things you could use to absorb things, to memorize them forever, etc. And there are a couple of tricks, and I'm not even going to call it a trick. It's not a trick. It's a technique. It's a memory technique. There's several different ways you can do this. But what I wanted to talk about today is not necessarily a like how-to guide on how to memorize things or how to memorize music or trivia. Excuse me. But instead a kind of a deep dive into the side effects of what I've noticed trying to cultivate memory. Man, uh, got to wake up your articulators in the morning, and the coffee hasn't kicked in yet. I got a gift certificate to a sensory deprivation tank, which on its face was like, I get it. It's like, oh, that'd be really cool. It should be like a relaxing spa experience. But it's also kind of like, hey, Grant, why don't you go into this box alone for an hour? Like that would be good, wouldn't it? Like I think that'd be great. Like your senses are deprived, so we can't hear you and we like can't see you. It's such a mixed gift because you're like, yeah, it'd be a really cool thing to be alone with your thoughts for an hour. And that was okay. That's a neat experience. Um, Sensory deprivation tank, for those of you who have not done it, is a bath of very salinated water. So they basically put salt into water where it cannot take any more salt into it. So it's incredibly salty, but what that does is it raises the density of the water to the point where you float. Like you can't physically sink into the water, so your body's always on top of it. Then they take the water and they circulate it so that it is your body temperature. So now you're floating in this tank, and you have no distinguishing feeling on any of your skin because the water around is the exact same temperature as your skin. Then they give you these earplugs that are made of like wax to keep the salt water and the stuff from getting into your ears, and so you can't really hear anything. You put those in, and then you're inside this giant dome, which it does have like light options. Like people can have light, and you can have music come in through the water, so you can hear it through. Like it translates the vibrations through your jaw, and you can hear some of the stuff if you really want to. But I was like, no, I'm gonna go in, and I'm gonna go in. Just like throw me into solitary confinement. And so then it's pitch dark. You have so really you're just like, oh, okay, I'm floating in this black void, and all you're focused on is the sound of your own heartbeat and your breathing. And that's a little distracting. Like too, like if I was going to redesign this, I would put something in the top of this shell that stops sound waves from bouncing around because you'd breathe and you'd be like, oh, I am in a shell. Like I can hear the sound of my breath bouncing off and coming back and doing that. But other than that, and I was like, oh, I've heard that people can if they're in there for a while, your brain starts to starve for information, and so it's like just starts coming up with stuff to give you, and um, I was like, oh, that would be really cool. And really, what it was is it's like take. It's like if my brain was a toddler who's been playing video games all day long, and then I just put it in timeout for no reason. It was very mad at me, and so I ended up having to come up with a game in my head to entertain my brain so that I wasn't just like painfully bored. I was like, this is exhausting, and the game that I came up with was trying to find my earliest memory. And I would argue you do not have to be in a sensory deprivation tank to have this work. If anything, it probably works better when you're not in one. But like, so the idea is you're trying to remember your oldest, earliest memory. A lot of times, your memories are weirdly interconnected with other things, and so the technique was to say, okay, what's the earliest thing I can remember, like logically, timeline wise, that has to be pretty early. And then freely associating to other memories that that's linked to. So, for example, when between the ages of 2 and 4, um, I lived in San Antonio. And I have a handful of memories of all that time in San Antonio, and they're very vivid. Partially, I think, because it was a different environment to Omaha, and so it compartmentalized that, and it's easier to separate them out. But then I go back to I can picture that house that we had, the rental house. I could draw you a layout of the floor plan of that house. I know exactly where the rooms were, where the bathroom was, where the playroom was, how the kitchen was laid out. But then, I have memories of being in the van, our old Chrysler minivan, in the summer, and this would be 1980, in 1990 probably, yeah. So it'd be the summer in Texas, and it's hot and sweaty, and like the heat's just coming down. And we would drive past this car dealership that had a giant inflatable gorilla. And you've seen those, like they're like, and I was fascinated by the weirdness of this giant inflatable gorilla, and that immediately makes me think of Susudio by Phil Collins, because it was on the radio all the time, and so like Susudio, giant inflatable gorilla, the old Chrysler with the red plush interior on the inside, white on the outside, super heat in the middle of Texas takes me, boom, right back there. And then I start to freely associate other things and memories and events and stuff that happened with that. And what I've realized is that memory doesn't care about timeline. You will start to jump around in time. So it will associate maybe getting sunburned, for example, with boom, you're at another sunburn at camp when you're in middle school, and then that reminds your brain of associating a different sunburn where you were at the pool, and that reminds you of a different sunburn where like I'm laughing, but it is only funny in hindsight, where I fell asleep on a pool, like a donut in the middle of a pool in the middle of the summer, and I sunburned my armpits. Oh, don't do that. That's the worst. You're just like walking around like this all day for like a week. People are like, "What's wrong with you?" And you're like, "I'm an idiot." That's what I am. But but it's a really interesting exercise, because what happens is, as you're freely associating memory, and you're the only conscious thing you're doing is saying, oh, let's try to associate whatever the thing that popped in with one that's back in time, with an older one. You start to renew some of those memory neural pathways, and you will unlock memories that you had quote unquote forgotten about. They weren't in your conscious to be able to pull. And the more you do this exercise, the more of those memories you can reinforce. And so I've noticed that you can direct this to different ways. One of those ways is to say, I want to remember my earliest memory. Another way to say is, I want to remember like something about a specific time or environment. So, like my time in Chicago, I can start pulling memories of my time in Chicago and then continue to associate and unlock stuff that I'm actively forgetting. And that is a really, really interesting mental exercise. And I don't think, in today's world of everything is entertaining all the time. Like I could pull my phone up and I could literally scroll and scroll and scroll, and like my phone is going to run out of batteries before I run out of content. Um, there isn't a whole lot of incentive to say, oh, turn everything off, go sit someplace, don't have music on, don't have the TV on, just be alone with your thoughts and try to come up with your earliest memory. Um, it sounds like something that you, if you suggested that to a teenager, they'd think you were trying to kill them. And it happens to be incredibly healthy for your memory and for things that, because memory is all about, I'm going to use the term erosion. Um, there's this entropy. There's not atrophy, entropy that happens. So we're thinking, when it comes to a neural pathway, right? You've got one neural connection, another neural connection. When it finally bridges that gap and your brain makes the connection, the more that connection happens, the stronger that becomes. And so that's also why practicing something makes things easier. People get better at it. People can get fantastically good at things because they practice them over and over again. Those neural pathways get very, very rehearsed and reinforced. But if you don't reinforce that, they just slowly fade over time. So, for example, I one of my my focuses in undergrad was studio art, with an emphasis in photography, and specifically black and white darkroom photography. Now, I do have a dark room. I haven't set foot in it in a couple of years. There is not a whole lot of need in my day to day life for the, or just like, it's hard to prioritize buying film, bulk rolling it onto rolls, and then going out and shooting film, and then developing it, and then doing contact sheets, and then doing prints. And it's a very time consuming. I love it. I love that process. I find it very almost meditative, to do that, to just like put some music on and develop things in the darkroom. But I'll be honest, I haven't done it in a while, and I used to have all of those formulas, all the timing, every little movement and shake and things of my developer, all those canisters and everything was just locked in. I didn't have to think about it. And now I could not tell you, gun to my head, I couldn't tell you any of the steps in act. I mean, I could tell you the basic steps, but as far as the like, oh, here's the temperature this has to be at. Here's your best practices. Here's how to do that. If I pick it up though, it would probably take me, a couple of hours to get back up to speed. So there's the advantage of practicing something and getting good at it, is that you can, it's like riding a bicycle premise, is that once you've learned how to do something, it's easier to relearn it. It's easier to pick it back up. It's easier to collaborate, but you can't just let that go. And similarly, I was talking yesterday a little bit about casual cruelty and neuroplasticity, but it's the same idea. People assume that practice only applies to tangible skills, right? I'm going to practice plumbing and I'll get better at it. I'm going to practice music and I'll get better at it. I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm going to practice Spanish and then I'll get better at it. But practice also applies to behavior, and it applies to negative behavior. However you're behaving, if you practice it, you will get better at that. If you are cruel all the time, if you are a total bitch to service people, you are going to be slowly leveling up your bitchiness to service people skill, and you're going to get better at being bitchy to service people. It's just how your brain works. So there's a certain amount of memory things that you can kind of use to your advantage or to your disadvantage. I find it a really interesting exercise to try to remember all of the places that I've fallen asleep. Because I would argue that your brain knows where you've fallen asleep. I don't think you've ever forgotten a place where you've fallen asleep. And that means, I have a picture of, the bed where I fell asleep last night in my head. I have a picture of the bed at our old house, of every bed that I've ever had in any apartment, in any dorm room, on any futon that I've ever crashed on, any couch that I've taken a nap on, like any hotel room in any location. And that can be a really interesting thing, is where you're trying to remember all of the places, any tent where you ever went camping, that smell, oh, the smell of mom and dad's pop up camper. In the middle of the summer, they'd drag us up to the Black Hills and we'd have this pop up camper that always kind of just smelled a little bit like mildew, and then cleaning products all the time. And that's just what it did. And it like is, if orange linoleum had a smell, that is what that smell is to me. And you're trying to remember all the different places you've slept, and all of a sudden you're going to pop into this memory that hadn't occurred to you, that wasn't there. And you can further cement all those by writing them down. Actualizing, really writing anything out, getting anything out of your brain and writing it. Saying it is one thing, but the writing and the saying parts of your brain are a little different. And in actually having your brain take that memory, process it into something that's tangible, written, and then writing it down, you're going to lock that in for a lot longer. And, have a lot of weird little notes that you could do if you ever wanted to do an autobiography at the end of your life. I think that we also lose some of that perspective as memories fade. There's this certain notion of adaptability, in that humans are, I would argue, infinitely adaptable. And what I mean by that is, there are people right now in our world who are undergoing incredible hardship and cruelty. Just people of Gaza and Palestine right now. There are people who are trying to get through their day, and their normal day has become our entire way of life has been under attack. It's bombed into rubble, and they're still managing to wake up and function. And people have woken up and functioned in concentration camps. People have woken up and functioned in extreme poverty, in the face of all sorts of different adversity, etc. And that, I think, is a testament to the human spirit and how much people can collaborate and endure. But the flip side of that is also true. I think people adapt to luxury, and they adapt to luxury in a way that makes it very, very easy to forget any life that they previously had when they didn't have luxury. And so that tends to make people calloused and cruel and selfish and self-centered. I try to never forget those moments. I mean, I know there was a time when I was a absolutely poor college student, and I literally went down to searching my house for loose change in the couch cushions to go to the bank, change that into dollars, and I said, oh, this will be enough bread and peanut butter to last me until I can get to the next paycheck. That is a reality for many homes and many households and many individuals every single day. And to forget what it's like to live that way, you're going to lose some of your empathy and lose some of your humanity in there. I think the longer that things go on, the longer that people are comfortable, the longer that people are like, oh, well, I have built this life for myself without any help. One of those guided memory things is to remember, you can remember your earliest memory, you can remember all the places you slept, you can try to remember all the times someone helped you. Anytime somebody coached you through something, gave you a leg up, bailed you out when you were in need, if you called and said, hey, I don't know what to do, and that person came and helped you, those are all locked away in your memory as well. And that can give you a profound sense of gratitude once you realize that we are constantly collaborating with each other. We are constantly helping each other out. No man is an island. Nobody built no billionaire built their empire alone. They owe so much to so many people, and apparently, when you get to be famous for how rich you are, apparently that just breaks your brain, and you're like, oh, I did this. I'm pretty sure I did this. I mean, like, yeah. And I love that idea of just like a billionaire who's like, man, I am the bee's knees. I did everything myself, to like their private pilot who's like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, oh, we live in a weird time. We live in a weird time. But the point of this too is that your your brain is a fantastic biocomputer that we still don't fully understand. What we do know is that sentience and agency can help you steer it and reprogram it in ways that I would argue are healthier. Although the argument for what mental health is to each person is up for debate, but I think there's a goal to avoid anxiety and have this sort of peace with living life that we have sidestepped. And that's that's an interesting thing. I think that I'm seeing in a lot of people right now is that they have everything they were told they should want. They have a nice car. They have the latest car. It goes the fastest. It's, oh my goodness, wow. They have a nice house. They have kids. They have a family. They have a financial security. They've got high paying jobs. They have, the ability to go on a vacation. And almost to a person, those people are like realizing that there's something missing. That there is something missing that somehow modern late stage capitalist advertising failed to market to them. And I would argue that that is because it's a piece of the puzzle which isn't able to be sold to people. And when you can't sell commoditize something, you can't have a barrier to it, then capitalism really has no interest. When it comes to free things, capitalism just sort of breaks, and it's a whole thing. And I'm talking. I think there is a spiritual deficit in the world right now, and part of that is how we're taking care of our brains and how they work. And I've written a lot about this. I have a lot of theories on best practices, and we could go into. I could turn this what is now a 20-minute video into a 2-hour video, but I'd like to break it up into little pieces. So, but the idea is this is one exercise that you can use to kind of exercise your brain, where the same thing like getting out of the house, going for a run, stretching, exercising your body, you can actively do exercises for your brain. And I'm not talking just like, oh, I'm going to do a crossword puzzle. Like, sure, crossword puzzles are good, but also like you don't have to just run flashcards. But you also don't need anything. You don't need to buy something to exercise your brain. And by the definition of that, by the side effects of it, you have an incredible amount of mental agency just from the ability to think a certain way. And there's literally no subscription service and no corporation that can charge you for that. And if you can unlock certain tools to help you, I would argue, and I'm not a medical person. I'm an artist and a musician and a philosopher and a writer and a comedian and IT troubleshooter and all sorts of other. I wear all sorts of other hats. But I would argue that, like, I don't see a downside to trying to bolster your memory as you age. I think there's probably going to be an anathema. Is that the word I'm looking for? Basically, a preventative for dementia is this idea that you train your memory and train empathy, and if you do that over and over again, I think you can remain sharp and lucid longer. I think when people get bogged down into the day to day and they uh, get kind of galvanized, then it becomes harder and harder to think differently. Now that was the old theory. That's the neuroplasticity basically blows that up. But the old theory was that once you got to a certain age, you were basically set, and no one was going to convince you otherwise. It's the you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and that everything that you did, like up to a certain, like you hit 40, and you're like, oh, that's how I'm going to be. And that's well, really not true. Like you can still learn new languages at 50 and 60. You can learn new skills. There's nothing to say that you can't do something mentally because you're aging. It might be more difficult. It might take a little bit longer to reinforce some of those neural pathways. In some cases, it might be easier because you have a life of experience already. Um, but but what is guaranteed to prevent you from learning something is telling yourself that you can't do it. And if you are constantly saying, "Oh, I can't learn about new computer stuff. I can't do that." You're like, "Well, yeah, then you won't." Sure, yeah. That's great. That's a great way to just if you talk yourself out of it, your brain will be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I guess we can't do that. Sorry." Um, so there's and I could go on and on about like creativity and like trying and failing and trying again and how like music and practice is so valuable. And like that may be a topic for tomorrow or another day, but this idea that some of these day-to-day skill sets are healthy and no one can charge you for them, and all it takes is you to change your own behavior. There's a criminal amount. I'm going to use my last 4 minutes to just rail on the internet, but there's a criminal amount of misinformation out there. If I want to uh, improve, like, if I want to do physical fitness, for example, if I say, oh, I want a weight loss regimen or I want to build muscle or I want to do something, and I go online right now and I search for it, what I'm going to get is probably 50 pages of ads, and every single page on there is going to be somebody who has figured their own personal fitness journey out and wants to sell me their methodology. They want to commodify the knowledge that they themselves had figured out. And there's this huge barrier, and some of it's good and some of it's garbage, and they don't care as long as they get paid. And that is true of pretty much every self-help premise. Is the like, oh, you know what will make you $100,000 a month? Taking my course. My course only costs $7,500 a month. But I mean, if you have $7,500, you'll be like recouping that because, oh my God, you'll have taken my course. Take my course. This isn't a scam. And like, yeah, it is a scam. Clearly, the cool thing that person has discovered is how to grift you. They have discovered how to make money by convincing other people that they have figured something out. I don't want your money. Like keep it. Like I don't even ask people to is it over here? I don't care. You know what I mean. Been on YouTube enough. I don't really care. Um, I'm not doing this. I originally went down this YouTube channel and I was like, I'm gonna try my best to make a monetized YouTube channel, and then I realized that I don't care enough. Like it's a lot of work, and you have to like really game the algorithm. You have to min max the content. You have to be really really careful. It is like having a second job. I mean, some of these YouTubers who make money off of this and have been doing it, it is their job, and they are at the mercy of getting 500,000 to 1 million views on a video, or they will not be able to pay their bills. I do not care. I'm doing this just so that I can get the thoughts out of my brain and kind of I get caffeinated. I get to talk in the morning, and that gets me warmed up for all the fun meetings I get to have. And maybe share a little philosophy, wisdom, and a new perspective. And if that helps you, whoever you are viewing this, work some shit out in your life, that's great. And if you have other interesting things that this conversation prompts, yeah, like that's the idea, is to take a little bit out of your day, train your brain, and think about new topics and work them through. Work them through in this, I guess we're going to call it a video blog, for lack of a better term. There you go, YouTube algorithm, video blog. All right, I said I wanted to keep these at 30 minutes. This is slightly over. This has been a fun little chat on memory. I feel like I forgot something. Well, it'll hit me sometime. All right, have a good day. Until tomorrow, be kind to each other. See ya.